This is one of the only Dizzy games that doesn't have Dizzy in the title. And I guess the only other one is Fast Food. This is a sort of sequel to Fast Food, actually. Anyway, I'm going to play the Spectrum version of Kwik Snax. I do happen to have this game for the Amstrad, the Spectrum and the Commodore 64 now, although the Commodore 64 one is a completely different game. And for some reason the screenshots are all of the Amstrad one here. Apparently it got 92% in Crash magazine. It looks like they couldn't quite decide on how to spell quick. So anyone who's not familiar with the ZX Spectrum, apart from one later Amstrad model, they all used cassette tapes. And all of the Sinclair models, including this one here, the ZX Spectrum Plus 128K, it is just a keyboard. So there's no additional ports for pretty much anything. There's not even a power switch on it. So I've got my my interface plugged in, so I can use a joystick. But also, you need to plug in a tape player. But you can use any old kind of tape player. So I'm using this little Philips Walkman thingy. You've got mic and ear. So I'm going to plug my SCART cable into the mic, which means I'll get the actual game sound come out of my TV. So these are mono 3.5mm cables. So all you do is plug one of them into ear. So I've plugged the black one in there, and plug in the other end into your tape player in the headphone port. Like that. And if I've got the volume correct, I will guarantee that this game will work. Because tapes are a lot more reliable than you think. And here we have the 128K menu screen. It does have a tape loader option and a calculator actually. So I actually timed this and it takes about 10 minutes to load the game up. Obviously I've cut it down for this video. I'll upload the full intro tune as a separate video to YouTube, but just check it out for a minute.
Kwik Snax.
In this game, Dizzy and some of his friends, otherwise known as the Yoke Folk, are in a band, which is not really something that is spoken of in any of the other games. But what happens is that after a long tour, they have an argument about where they want to go on holiday, and it's so loud that it gets overheard by Zax the Wizard, and he sends them all to different lands. And for a Spectrum game, these are some pretty good pictures. It's nice and colourful. I mean, you might notice a lot of these Dizzy games look different, and that's because a lot of the times they were just sort of passed on to different teams, and they were probably given quite a lot of freedom to just do their own thing. And this is one of the only ones that was made for 128k, which is why you get all this extra stuff. And so now we've got a choice of 4 levels. The strangest place in Yokeland. Yeah, so it's a single screen action game, and to complete each screen you just have to collect the fruits. But the thing is, you get a lot of freedom to how you can play the game. You get one block that you can push, and you can push as many of those as you like, and you can even push them across the border to the other side of the screen, and you can squash enemies with them. So if you want to, you can play it very defensively. So it's a simple idea, but it's really good fun, I think. And then after each screen you get one of these bonus rounds where you choose a direction and then you can't change direction until you hit something. And again, you have to collect all the fruits. But you don't lose a life if you fail these, because these are just bonus screens. So we have a different type of enemy here. I don't know what they're supposed to be. Jesters or something. The enemies change quite a lot, but their actual behaviour doesn't change. I think the AI is pretty simple, really. And actually, these bonus screens are about 50% of the entire game, because you get one after every screen, and you get a time limit too to finish them. You see that in the top right corner there, that flashing thing? I think that's a power-up that stops you crossing the border. Oh yeah, there you go, yeah. I forgot that I picked it up. But yeah, how colourful is this game? There are quite a lot of Spectrum games that just resorted to one shade and black. So it does have a bit of a reputation for monochrome graphics. But actually the Spectrum is pretty colourful. I mean, only a year or so before the machine was first released, a lot of computers just had either green screen graphics or black and white. But this game obviously came out a lot later than Spectrum's initial release date. I think this is from 1990, and it probably came at about the time consoles were starting to take over and people were starting to upgrade their home computers. And actually in this country most people ended up buying an Amiga, even though that was a lot more expensive than a console. And this game wasn't just released on the ZX Spectrum. As with most Dizzy games, it was released across loads and loads of different formats. At the time I had this for the Amstrad and I absolutely loved the game. I thought it was one of the best games for the machine, and it had even more colourful graphics than this version does. Oh, I think I've screwed up here, haven't I? But yeah, as I was saying, I had the Amstrad version, but when I eventually got round to buying a ZX Spectrum computer, the first game I decided to buy was this, because it has all this extra stuff, and that's down to the fact that it has a enhanced 128K version, so I thought it was definitely worth getting. And I've actually got this for the Commodore 64 as well, but it's not the same game. It is basically a different game, a completely different game that they've just sort of called Kwik Snax because it kind of filled a gap, I guess. I'm not going to screw this one up as well, am I? You see, there is a time limit there. Oh no, I ran out of time. Ah, I've saved Grand Dizzy. Alright, so what next? The Land of Clouds. So, as I said, I had the Amstrad version at the time, and I always found the game to be really, really easy. And I think that's actually because that version runs a lot slower. So in this one, that runs a little bit faster, the enemies are actually a bit of a danger, and I do end up getting a game over here. Now this is not an excuse, well actually it's a little bit of an excuse, but I was playing this with a Master System controller, and sometimes I ended up pressing a direction and the character moved in a completely different direction to what I thought I was pressing, and that did sort of mess me up a few times. So what I did is I started it again, so you can see the other two worlds, and you can hear the really funky music as well. I must say though, even though I quite like the music, I think it's really energetic. I think after a while it will drive you mad. It's a little bit much, isn't it? It's the sort of music where if you're playing this, or if you was playing this in your living room with your mum, then she wouldn't appreciate it. Oh, I'm thinking about this one. Trouble is, all the enemies are all in that top left corner. It looks like they can't pass over the fruit, but now I don't have a way of killing them. God, this screen's taking ages. I don't know what it is, but I do think this last level is harder. I do think it's harder than the other ones. Whether there's a slight change in how aggressive the enemies are, or it's just clever layout of the screens. I think this game really does show off the Spectrum at its best. I think my next video will be another Dizzy game because I'm on a bit of a unintentional roll of Dizzy games, but I don't know which one. I mean, it's obviously going to be one that I own, but I do own quite a lot, so we'll have to see. I don't know if I said already, but I will upload the full intro tune as a separate video. Once again, if you got this far, thank you for watching.